Hi, guys, welcome to our podcast. Today, we're exploring a timeless and universal theme called Things of Love, but we're putting a special twist on it by focusing on Sri Lanka, a country with such vibrant and unique culture of love. So, love is powerful, it's emotional, personal, and even spiritual. But what makes it truly fascinating is how it's shaped by the stories, traditions, and everyday life of a place. In Sri Lanka, love isn't just found in grand romantic gestures, it's also found in the way we celebrate festivals and the way we share meals, and even in the quiet moments of care between family and friends. So, I'm Anjali, your host for today. Joining me are Nuha and Chatuni. Together, we're going to dive into the idea of love in Sri Lanka, what it might look like, how it's expressed, and even how it's evolving. Now, before we dive into speculations, let's start with a simple question. Uh, Nuha, when you think about love in Sri Lanka, what comes to your mind first?
Thanks, Anjali. When I think about love in Sri Lanka, I immediately think of traditions, especially during festivals like Aurudu. Aurudu isn't just about marking the Sinhala and Tamil New Year, it's about connecting with the people around you. Picture this: families waking up early to clean their homes, preparing traditional sweets like kam, cookies, and alua. It's not just food, it's a way of showing love and care. When you bring a plate of these treats to your neighbor's house, you're saying something like, I value you. And then there are the games. Take Kanamutti for example. It's not just a game, it's a way to bond with family and friends through laughter and joy. These moments create a sense of love that goes beyond words. Another thing that stands out to me is weddings. Sri Lankan weddings are so rich in rituals, especially the Porua ceremony. It's such a beautiful way to honor not just the couple but also their families. The blessings, the traditional music, the vibrant clothes, it's all a celebration of unity and love. What about you, Chatani? What comes to your mind when you think of love in Sri Lanka?
Actually, I love how you describe that, Noha. For me, love in Sri Lanka isn't always loud or obvious. It's often in quiet gestures. Think about grandparents. They might not say I love you outright, but they'll make sure that you have eaten before you leave the house, or they give you a simple blessing like Buddhu Saranai when you go out. That's love in action. And then there's a connection to nature. Sri Lanka has such a deep respect for the environment. Traditional practices like planting a tree to celebrate a special occasion or offering flowers at the temple, those acts are for love too. That's a way of saying I care for the world around me. And speaking of love for nature, even small things like sharing a mango or cooking fresh jackfruit curry for someone, these acts are like full of love and generosity. They may seem ordinary, but they carry so much meaning.
I love that, Chatani. It's so true that love here is often shown through actions rather than words. Let's shift gears now and talk about something that's always evolving. How love looks for younger generations compared to the older ones. Nuha, what do you think?
That's such an interesting question. I think there's a big difference in how love is expressed today compared to our parents' or grandparents' time. For an example, back then, love letters were a huge deal. Imagine sitting under a dim lamp, writing a heartfelt letter, choosing your words carefully because that letter might be the only way to express your feelings for weeks. It's so different from today, where people can just send a quick message on WhatsApp or share a meme on Instagram to say, I'm thinking of you. But even now, I think some traditions are timeless. Arranged marriages are still common in rural areas, but even those are changing. Couples often meet a few times and get to know each other before deciding. It's like a modern twist on a traditional practice, don't you think?
Yeah, exactly, Neha. And I think technology is playing a huge role. In cities, dating apps like Tinder are becoming more popular. It's a whole new way of meeting people, but what's fascinating is how it blends with traditional values. Even if a couple meets online, they often still involve their families when things get serious. And then there's social media. Younger people today use Instagram stories, TikTok videos, or even creative posts to express their feelings. It's very public, very visual, and very different from the handwritten letters or gifts we hear about from older generations.
It's such an interesting mix of old and new. Let's explore this. Let's explore this further. How do you think love is expressed without words in Sri Lanka?
Oh, I'd say food is the ultimate expression of love here. Cooking someone's favorite dish, especially during special occasions, is such a meaningful gesture. For an example, during Aurudu, people make special sweets and share them with the neighbors. It's a way of saying, I care about you. Even in everyday life, things like making a cup of tea for someone or packing a lunchbox, it's love in action without needing to say a single word. Don't you agree with that?
I agree. And I think small gifts are another way where love is expressed silently. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It could be something as simple as a packet of their favorite biscuits or handmade cards. Even body language is a form of love. A warm smile, a gentle touch on the shoulder, or just sitting and listening to someone is all communicates care without needing love.
Those are such lovely examples. Let's get a bit creative now. What's one thing you think we'd never expect to discover about love in Sri Lanka?
I think we'd find some amazing hidden love stories in our folk songs and poetry. Sri Lanka has such a rich tradition of storytelling. Imagine the untold tales of love that are waiting to be rediscovered.
That's such a beautiful thought, Noha. I bet modern trends like graffiti arts or secret meeting spots in cities like Colombo, I bet there are hidden corners of creativity where people quietly celebrate love in their own unique ways.
This is an amazing conversation, by the way. From the traditional rituals of Aurudu and weddings to modern trends like dating apps and graffiti art, we've explored so many different facets of love in Sri Lanka. What stands out to me is how universal yet unique love is. It's in our food, our actions, our festivals, and even in the way we care for nature. Whether it's through grand celebrations or quiet gestures, love in Sri Lanka is deeply rooted in connection and care.
Before we sign off, I'd like to leave you with something to reflect on. Love isn't always about the big moments, the grand gestures, or the poetic words that we often see in movies or read about in books. Sometimes it's in the quiet, everyday acts that we take for granted. Love can be as simple as the way someone looks after you when you're feeling unwell, or how they make you feel heard and even seen without saying much. It's these smaller, often unnoticed moments that shape our relationships and our understanding of love in a deeper way. Don't you agree on that, Chatuni?
Yeah, here in Sri Lanka, love is incredibly intertwined with our culture, community, and even with very land we live on. It's reflected the way we celebrate together, whether it's through the shared joy of a festival or the deep connections we build during rituals and ceremonies. Love in Sri Lanka is often communal, bounded by the bonds of family, neighbors, and traditions that pass through generations. It's found in the gathering of people during celebrations like Avrudu or in deep rooted respect for elders during weddings. So it's every aspect of life, from the food we share to the way we greet each other, carries the essence of love.
Yes. So, as you go about your day to day, take a moment to pause and notice the small ways love is showing up around you. It might not be in something grand or obvious, but in the quiet exchanges, the kind words, or the simple acts of care that we sometimes overlook. Maybe it's in the smile of a stranger or in the unexpected kindness of a friend. And who knows, perhaps today is the day to show a little extra love to someone, to offer that warmth or appreciation that's been in your heart but hasn't found the words yet. That simple act could be the start of a beautiful story worth sharing, and that's the kind of love that lasts. Okay, so thanks again, Nuha and Chatani. So we'll conclude our podcast from there. Thank you.